Hello, AP Seminar. Mr. Galusha here with our day 3 of introducing different writing styles. We've talked about informative writing, and today we're doing tips on writing arguments. Our goal is to be able to write a little paragraph today that makes a claim and goes ahead and backs up that claim with evidence and analysis. Why are we doing it? So that you can have arguments and write them, because you guys need to have opinions and be able to back up those opinions in your entire academic career. Specifically for this class, you're going to be doing that in your team media presentation and in your independent written argument. So that's going to really take part in the back half of this course. Will be all about argumentative, including your EOCB, which I should have put on there as well. Now, how will you know if you learned it today? You're going to end up writing an argumentative paragraph for your topic. So arguments, again, let's just go over the purpose here. That is to prove with evidence and analysis that your perspective is correct. If that is your purpose, I really want you to think like we had you do yesterday with informative. We had you thinking about being a host at a dinner party. Your different guests were the different sources that needed to talk, and you were moving the conversation from perspective to perspective. With argumentative, it's very different. You are center stage, and I want you to picture yourself arguing your case in front of a judge. In this case, the judge is your reader. And I would like you to think of your reader as being as skeptical and as caustic as Judge Judy. Like, you can't mess up with Judge Judy. She's going to find your lack of evidence or your bad reasoning. If you don't connect a claim to something, she's going to call you out. And I want you to think of your reader being like that. You have to prove to Judge Judy that your claim should be the claim that she's going to go with. Now, some of you may have done Tide when you were in primary school and middle school. It is not that much different here. You're still going to have a topic sentence. You're still going to have evidence that you examine, and then you are going to end your paragraph. So nothing earth-shatteringly new here. We're just going to take things to a more collegiate level. As I bounce myself across the screen here. So here's an example of a topic sentence. Unfortunately, lending practices by colleges are setting many students up for financial ruin. See, this is a topic sentence. I am clearly arguing a claim here. My claim is that colleges are giving out loans they know students can't pay. As a former financial aid officer at a different time of my life, I kind of feel like I've got some observable evidence to back up this claim too. So now I want you to notice the difference here in our two paragraphs. For an argumentative paragraph here, that's my topic sentence. You know that I'm going to argue that colleges, Judge, are setting students up for financial ruin. You will convict them on this charge. An informative paragraph is very different. I'm hosting a dinner party. I'm saying, listen, we all know the cost of college is high. We have many experts that are gathered together today, and they differ on how best to finance college tuition bills. Let's hear from source A first and now source B. Here, you notice how I'm kind of directing traffic in an informative lit review, whereas in an argumentative paper, I'm arguing for a specific viewpoint. Okay, we have to use evidence to back up what we are saying. Now, this evidence will come for your research in AP Seminar. I do not want you pulling evidence out of nowhere, out of your own personal experience, not really something we're going to do until we're forced to on the EOCB. More to come on that in a minute. I don't like it, or later. We're going to have 3 pieces of evidence to support a claim at the very least. Don't go into Judge Judy's chambers with one little receipt that is kind of crumpled and proves that, like, no, you need to have your stuff in order. You need 3 pieces of evidence. We would also like you to try to use different types of evidence. Qualitative evidence are expert opinions and individual experiences that you get from research, so other people's individual experiences. They oftentimes explain or illustrate a main point. They give an example, so they're qualitative. I am much more, as a psychologist, I am much more swayed by quantitative evidence, numbers, statistics of larger groups of people, experimental data. So this stuff proves that it applies to a larger population. To me, it's far more convincing than qualitative evidence. So if I were your Judge Judy and all you brought to the table was qualitative expert opinions, I'd be like, what are you going to prove to me? And so I think trying to get a little quantitative number data to back up what you're saying, depending upon your topic, is a really good way to go. Now, how do I functionally write this? So after I've got my topic sentence, what you can do is you want those 3 pieces of evidence, but you can't just list your pieces of evidence. You have to have an argument in there. So just like with Tide, where you had to have your evidence, you had to have detailed examinations, I think they call it in Tide. So sometimes what I want you to do is lead with your evidence sentence and then do an argument sentence. And other times I want you to lead with your argument sentence and do an evidence sentence. Now I'm going to show you examples of this in a minute. Notice the evidence is in red and the argument is in blue. So over here, we've got examples of blending your evidence and argument. So over here, our evidence is in red and our arguments in blue. So here's an evidence sentence. Adam Smith, an economist at Capitalist Weekly, these are all just made up, cautions that 75% of students will default on private loans. So there's my evidence. And now I'm going to tie this back to my argument. This staggering figure illustrates the predatory lending practices used by colleges. And yes, Judge Judy, see, this is a problem. And I bring it back to my claim. Or I could restructure this. Maybe next time I want to go with my argument first and my evidence second. So here I would do it like this. College financial aid offices engage in predatory lending practices. Now I got to back this up, right? Like I can't just say that. I have to have evidence to say that. This is most clearly illustrated by Adam Smith, an economist at Capitalist Weekly, as he highlights a 75% default rate on these loans. Notice I'm still sourcing my things. You have to do that every time you do an author for the first time. But here are 2 different ways that I can structure it. That way it doesn't look too formulaic in your writing. And then if you vary that up, that variety is going to keep your judge, your reader, engaged. Now, to help you out, we always like to have sentence stems. There they are. There they are. I'll get used to this eventually. So there are the sentence stems. In blue are the ones that you can use for arguments, for your argument sentences, and in red are a few that you can use for your evidence sentences. So try those out. Remember to do some of the basics, my friends. Source your authors. That is a must for you to always do an AP seminar. And, it's no different than when you were young. You do need a conclusion sentence. I like to think of this as a way for you to comment about how all of the evidence proves that your claim is correct. Make it I rest my case moment and then drop the mic. So make sure you are leaving them with a sentence that sums up how those pieces of evidence that you chose went ahead and proved your claim. That's one of the most important things you can do to make your writing more convincing. Okay, my friends. So we're going to take a look at a little Google assignment, just a paragraph today. Things I want you to do. Use those academic discourse stems I just showed you in red and blue. Make sure you are still establishing the credibility of your author by sourcing it. Quote nuggets, no big, long sentences. Make sure you're using evidence to prove your perspective, at least 3 pieces. See if you can make it qualitative and quantitative evidence. And then finally, at the end, explicit discussion for each of your pieces of evidence, an argument sentence that explains how it connects. And at the very end, try to have that sum up sentence that explains how all of your evidence is proving your point. I rest my case, Your Honor. Take care, AP Summers.